Yo, we're live. Welcome to the Diren Kartal show. How you doing?
Yes, man, I'm good. I'm just handling business here. It's 10 past 11 here, so it's kind of winding down Sunday. What's good with you?
I'm good, man. Handling business. You're the businessman out here. For you guys that just joined us, I am with Mr. Alex Peters. It's the third time he's on the show. If you don't know him already, go back and listen to all the episodes because he's just great to have on. He's one of the very few people I feel like we can just talk forever, man.
Just chat and just do a whole bag of everything. Yeah, a whole collection of chat. Do you know what we've done? Do you know what I've got to say? We've done better in the year of isolation than any other time in terms of meeting up and connecting, because it's normally at best once a year when we meet up physically, or either you're traveling a lot or whatever. But since we've been all restricted, we've actually made it happen more times.
We have, yeah. And I feel like when there's like, you know, when we're doing like some level of like creating, whether it's a podcast, a video or whatnot, I feel like there's more of an objective to meet up. Not that meeting up with you is great, but like when there's like an objective of creating something, it just makes it more fun, like more of a thing to do.
No, you're right, because I think, you know, when it's just a casual thing, you know, with all the best intentions, there's always something that crops up that takes priority over just a casual link up. Yeah. So casual link up will happen when you've got time and you've nothing else on. Whereas when it's an objective, it fits into your diary of things to do. So then you make it happen.
100%. How was your Christmas? How was your Christmas and your New Year's?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was quiet. I had my older sister and her husband were around, and so they stayed over and everything like that. And yeah, it was cool. Just traditionally in the family for the last 20 years or so, we kind of don't make the big fuss and hype over Christmas, and there's no kids in the mix. And so if you have kids, then it's a different situation. But because it's just we just see it for what it is, just a chance to eat and chill. Yeah. They went home on New Year's, and then New Year's was literally my mum watching a church thing live on a laptop. Yeah. My dad was watching something dead. I don't know what it was, so I wasn't there. It was just me sitting in the kitchen with the cat beside me and me on my phone, and that was my New Year's.
Yeah, but you know what? I was the same, but I said to everyone, I said, "Good night, guys. I'm going to bed before New Year's," because like it sounds mad, but you know when you're younger, when I was younger, like I'd go back to school and be like, "Hey, fam, I stayed up until 2 a.m., bro." Like, I know, you know what I mean? Yes. You get excited about that. But then other than that, there isn't really nothing to, I guess, it's celebrating a new year. It's great. It's a fresh start. It's this and that. But I feel like it's been like a bit of a tough year for everyone. So I think people were weird into what to celebrate, because I think everyone thought going into like 2021 straight away is going to be like, all of a sudden, it's going to be better straight away.
Yeah, yeah. You know? It's that desire for euphoria. And the thing is, I don't know about you, I don't know where you was, but where I was, bruv, I've never heard fireworks, the amount of it. So for example, from 9 o'clock straight through till midnight, it was relentless fireworks. And I think maybe because people weren't going out, people weren't partying, people just made it happen in their front gardens. Yeah. It was just fireworks, just 3 hours straight.
You know what I did enjoy though? I actually did end up staying up because I heard Alicia Keys was on BBC.
What, was she on Jules Hollands or something like that?
Something like, you know, like the live countdown sort of thing. She was like singing until the live countdown. Okay. And I was like, I'm going to listen to Alicia Keys. And I was like, and she's amazing, man.
Come on now. Did you not see the battle between her and John Legend?
No.
What? Bruv, these verses, you need to get involved. Listen, Timbaland has been hooking people up. So they did battles, and it was Alicia Keys versus John Legend, and they just had to go hit for hit and say, okay, you dropped that banger, so this is what I pulled out. And they had the pianos opposite them. They both played the piano, they sung the song, and it was...
Oh, no. I need
Instagram raves. You missed these
really?
battles, bro. Yeah, it was...
It must be on YouTube, right? I'll check it out.
They're probably on YouTube now, you know what I mean? But it's something about going on and like seeing like Michelle Obama live, and then you see Missy Elliott commenting, like everybody, because everyone's Snoop Dogg, everyone's in, just because you want to see these people come together and battle.
Well, you know what? I love Snoop Dogg. He's just cool, man.
That's right. So you didn't see his battle then?
No, I didn't see nothing.
Him and DMX?
No. Oh, DMX, X go. I'll go check it out. I'm going to go check it out. I'm going to go. But did you watch?
Yeah, check that.
So with Alicia Keys, she did that, and then there was like the countdown to the new year. and I was like, I'll watch it, but there was no fireworks because usually there's fireworks next to London Eye, right?
That's right.
And there was no fireworks, but they did this weird visuals thing. Did you see this?
I see that where they had like drones kind of thing with lights and stuff. So I didn't see it, but I just heard about it.
Yeah, and I was like, what is this? I was like,
Yeah.
why are you doing this? Like, if you're going to do the fireworks, you should have just done the fireworks and not let anyone there, or not tell anyone, be like, we're
Yeah.
not doing the fireworks, and then just show it to everyone on TV, you know? And I was like,
Yes.
I was a bit like, that's a bit weird, but I'm sure there was a lot less hangovers than usual this year compared to any other year.
Well, I heard that some people did come down there. I heard that Trafalgar Square still had a whole bag of people. And when I looked at the Hungerford Bridge, you know the bridge that goes beside the railway at Charing Cross, the little walkway there, that was ram-packed.
Really?
Yeah, ram-packed. I saw a picture and I'm thinking, COVID's probably thinking, Happy New Year. Yeah. Because I'm thinking... Yeah.
You know what's crazy as well? Like when you're thinking about it, this all started like around this time last year. No, before.
Well, okay, so it hit England end of March, but the first case was end of December in China.
That's mad.
And then, so it was like that. And it's funny because I'm on the radio. So we had like a lady, Dr. Chesney. She was, shout out to Dr. Chesney if she's listening. But she was kind of giving everybody up the update and giving us the kind of when I say inside, but talking about what the scientists were saying. And obviously there was a lot of not panic, but concern and alarm amongst the scientists. But what she was saying from quite early is that scientists were genuinely angry with England because they were dragging their feet. And that was causing a lot of frustration and tension within those industries, because they're saying, come on, England, like London, take this serious. And then that was the continuing narrative right up until we then got it in the end of March in England. And then I remember the first case was up Newcastle. And then I think they then opened up a hospital in the Wirral. And I remember that because I was in Liverpool at the time. And then I was traveling through the Wirral to go to visit someone in North Wales and then come back through the Wirrals up. So yeah, I remember that quite well. And hey, we're still here.
Did you expect like all that madness? Did you think it was gonna? I'll be honest, man. I was very like, I was in my own world where I was like, I wasn't even paying attention to it. I'm like, I'm young, healthy, all of that stuff. So I wasn't really paying attention to it until obviously later on. Did you ever think at that point it was like, this is gonna be some madness, or were you just like, oh, it's just a virus, or like?
I kind of knew it was going to be a big thing, but like anything, you never really know what that looks like until it happens. Yeah. So I'll tell you how I did know. So first of all, having the updates from Dr. Chesney, who would come in on a guest show, I was helping out on the Sunday chat show, and she would phone in and update us. Then I had a friend of mine who I teach dance. He's English from up north, but he'd moved to China. He'd came home in Christmas to see his family and then was stuck here. He was then telling me about his girlfriend who lives in Shanghai, how bad it got. So he would be calling me and telling me how bad it was. So that was the second thing. Then my younger sister, she lives in South Korea, and it had already hit there. So she was telling me what was going on there. So in my head, I was like, okay, based on what they're telling me, this isn't going to be good. But like anything, in theory, I knew it wasn't going to be good, but then you don't know until it's here.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? It's like everyone thinks, oh, it's far away, but people don't realize the world is small. And
yeah, and absolutely. Yeah, and I think, and I do feel like I think I've mentioned this before, last time we spoke, there's a kind of like a historical arrogance. When we talk about pandemics and epidemics, you're used to seeing it in Africa, in Asia, in poor countries.
Yeah,
we're not used to it happening here. So I do feel like there was an arrogance around, probably from leadership first, but I also think from the public, where it's a kind of like, we don't like being told what to do. We're a very liberal country.
Yeah, but you know what? Like, why would the public take things seriously if leadership doesn't? Do you know what I mean?
Well, I guess you can say that in hindsight, but at the time, you wouldn't have known that they weren't taking it seriously. So, for example, I knew because I was talking to someone who was working with the scientists, and they were talking and having back and forth. But from a layman's point of view, you would just go with whatever the leadership tells you. So you wouldn't know that actually they hadn't turned up for 3 meetings, Cobra meetings, before eventually coming on and putting England into lockdown. So again, I think it's that sort of mentality that goes from the top and filters down. And it's only in hindsight when we start getting into blame mode, when we start saying, okay, it's the leader's fault, because information starts to come out that we do that. But then actually, we have to look at ourselves as well. Everybody, it's a collective thing.
That's true. That is true. That's a very fair point, because what you said then just made my brain just go bing. And what I think of that now, after that comment I just said, is it's something that was not known. So leadership does not know what it is. And although everyone's like giving Boris shit and whatever, and things could have been better, things could always be better, things could have always been done. But when you're dealing with something that you don't know what it is, how much blame can you put on a person? Because it is a person at the end of the day. Do you know what I mean? No matter how fit they are to run a country, how the hell do you do something against something that is unknown? And like you said, people don't like being told what to do in England. Do you know what I mean? Which kind of brings me on to like me being in Australia. I'm in a hotel room for 2 weeks.
Yes.
You know, and I've never seen such organized, like an organization, right?
Yeah, you said this. What do you mean? Tell me.
Mate, okay, so I've got on the flight. Before you jump on the flight, they ask for your PCR test, and you can only come into the country if you're a resident or if you've got this really exclusive work thing. And lucky for me, I'm here for a tour, but I've got residency, so it was a lot easier for me to get in. Well, not easier. I just walked in. I literally went to the airport, showed my passport, and everything's on the data. So I didn't even have to bring out like proof. It was just, they put my passport in and they see this guy can enter Australia permanently, in and out whenever he wants. So
I didn't even know you had permanent residency, but that's nice.
Yeah, I've got permanent residency. I've got 3 countries now: Turkey, England, and
amazing.
And Australia. Gonna have to. I'll marry or give a baby to another immigrant so my kid can have 4.
Wow, the options, bro. The options, just waving them. Yeah, I hear you.
Waving the thing about.
Wow.
Yeah. And what I've realized before about Australians and the country itself is there's positives and negatives to this, is they're very good at following rules. And in an occasion like this, like hats off to them, because the minute I got on the flight, everyone was taking things seriously, like citizens as well as airlines, everything was safe. Meter and a half away, all the seating, everything. The plane seats were, the first flight I had was like 30 people, and the second one was like 35, because
30 people on the whole plane. And what kind of, do you know what size of the plane? Them big jumbo ones.
It was one lower than the A380. I think it was the 474. 477.
The 474.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
74. Yeah, the Boeing 747.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So and it's mad because only small amount of people can enter Australia per day, which means the airlines can only take small capacity of people, which also means that's why they're so expensive. You get what I mean?
Yeah. Because that's a lot of fuel for 30 people.
It is, but they're smart in the long run. These businesses, man, we're talking.
Yeah, they know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing, man. They're backed up by billions of dollars. Like, they might be losing money now, but all I know is when shit gets back to normal, I'm going to fly with Etihad again. They've won a lifelong customer. Do you know what I mean? So it's things like that. And getting off the flight, warnings everywhere. It's like being in a movie, Alex. It was mad. It was like being in a movie. It was like COVID restrictions. When you get off the flight, blah, 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 you'll be escorted, this and that, blah, 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 by this person. You get off, there's military and police. People like that.
In Australia, or is this in your changeover?
In Australia.
Right.
In Australia, as soon as you get off the flight. The changeover was pretty sweet. Was pretty sweet. In Abu Dhabi, it was fine. Airports were dead, but it was okay. In Australia, so the airport was dead in Sydney, but you go over to some nurses, they're asking you questions, trying to suss out if you look sick or if you're lying or whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's very smart.
Like that, yeah. Make him laugh and see how he laughs.
You know the ones when you got a dry throat and you're like... You can't even. I'm okay. I'm okay. Yeah. and then they escort you to like a coach with the military escort you. And now I'm in a hotel. I'm stuck in this room for 2 weeks. It's day 4 now for me. And there's military and police in the hallways.
No way.
Yeah, mate. You can't step out. You cannot step out.
You can't even have a bus a conversation with them.
No, nothing.
Wow. No. Okay.
Nothing. So in front of my door is a little table. They place your food. They knock on the door. You have to give them 10, 15 seconds to walk away.
Wow.
Yeah. But guess what?
Yeah.
My boy James and all my people, they're on the beach chilling. They're going out to eat.
Yeah.
You know, so they did it properly.
Yeah. So I think is that. So what you're saying is that they can't, because I mean, in a way, what you're saying to me is kind of slightly intimidating, and it's a bit strange. But at the same time, what you're saying is that they're going all out in this space, which means that once you're out of that zone, you've got the freedom to do whatever you want, kind of thing.
Exactly. And it's like people are like, oh my God, quarantine is so bad. Like, how are people going to do it? I'm thinking, listen. All I know is when I get out of there, I'm going into a new world. It's like, it's weird. It's like the Hunger Games. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's kind of weird, but you know, when you come out, at least you know you're coming out into a safer place and you're not putting anyone at risk.
Yeah.
I had a PCR test before I got on the flight. 40 hours before you land to Australia, you have to have a PCR test and you have to enter within a certain amount of time.
Yeah. Yes, of course.
Day 2. Nurses come, knock on the door, all covered up like in Monsters Inc. when there was that disease, you know. Yeah. They tell you to open your door. You open your door. You stand back at the door like this. They come around the corner. They give you another test on day 2. They go check the test. Day 10, you do another test. And if you're all clear, you're free. Day 14.
And if you're not clear, then what?
Then you'll have to stay until you recover.
Wow.
But it's good.
So, I mean, yeah, it's great. Okay, so now we're gonna throw it there. How do you feel about the whole thing? Because there's been such mixed kind of opinions and feelings around the existence and the severity of this coronavirus. What's your thoughts on it?
What you mean, like conspiracy wise?
Call it whatever. Yeah.
I think people believe whatever they want to believe.
Right.
I believe it's a virus.
Mm-hmm.
I believe if I'm healthy, if I'm fit, if I'm looking after myself, if I keep myself mentally busy, I'm going to be okay and I'll pass through this, and I try to spread that message as much as possible. Whether it's 5G or some shit, you know, or whatever it is, whether the vaccine is, it was all planned. China made this virus. America made China make this virus to kill the poor and the old, to uplift the economy, all of this stuff. It might be true, but guess what? We're never really going to find out. So why don't I just concentrate on my world? And my world is me, my family, and my friends. And what's the best way that I can help these people out, you know? And I'm going to concentrate on that, because you can't think of everyone. I can do my best to, you know, but like the truth is you can't think it to that depth, because when you do, that's when you get anxious. That's when you get nervous. And I feel like a lot of the country is doing that, which is why they are in a bit of I mean, I get it. Like some people are going to say, all right, Diren, you've got the luxury now to travel to Australia. In Australia, of course, you're going to say that. But I've been like this throughout the whole lockdown. I've been in the UK since it popped off. Do you know what I mean? So, but I don't know. What do you think? What about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. I mean, you know, so I'm at a place where I'm not so much interested in kind of believing or dismissing any arguments. I'm more interested in trying to understand what makes people think the way they think, because I think that finding out a little bit about the way they think gives a lot of context to why people are saying things, which then gives you probably a little bit more closeness to what's really going on. So one of the things that I think where my head is at right now, after kind of stepping back and looking at it, because equally like you, I was getting anxious of trying to I'm an inquisitive person. I ask lots of questions, but you get to a point where you realize you just cannot possibly understand everything. Yeah. So I guess I'm at a point where I've kind of realized that there's this kind of sense of mistrust with the government has been brewing for a very, very long time. And I think, so if I talk about the government, but then I also talk about the public, from the government's perspective, the culture of lack of transparency, lack of vulnerability means that they've missed opportunities to win people on side, whether there's a conspiracy or not. So what I mean by that, for example, some people often say is, "Oh, you're stupid. Well, you're just going on with all this rubbish. These are professionals, trust them." But actually, history tells us that if you look at, for example, the story of the legacy of racism, history tells us the leadership hasn't been transparent. They haven't been honest. So it's not unreasonable to feel a sense of mistrust. But like anything, if you don't, if let's say me and you had an issue where it wasn't a direct face-to-face thing, I heard you said something about me, but I'm not in a position to confront you. So I've got a vibe. You can sense that I'm a bit off with you, but I'm not telling you. So because you're feeling off, then you kind of, I'm picking up your offness. Then I start interpreting your behavior in every negative way, shape, and form without actually speaking to you. There's a void, and I have that chance to fill it in with things that are probably not true. So because I think for a long time, this continuous mistrust has continued to widen this void, it's now given space for the public to kind of pick on all sorts of narratives that might carry some truths, half truths, maybe no truths, but they run with it because the government has never really been culturally transparent and vulnerable. So if the government, for example, as you've rightly said, don't really know what they're doing, it's the first time that they're in this space, and the information has been confusing, conflicting, rather than just saying, look, people, this is the first time we're in this space. We are trying to work this out. We may get some things wrong. We're just asking you to work with us as we're trying to work this out together. You're more likely to win people. But then what's happening is this sense of professional front, giving information with conviction. But when you actually look at the information, it's like, well, it's not making sense to what we said last week. What is going on? It then fuels this. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that actually made me think of Trump when you said that, because he's a fucking idiot, but he's got confidence in everything he says. Hence why all of his followers, all the people that support him, they're never in doubt. They're confident.
Yes.
This virus, we got this virus under control. Everyone's like, no problem. He's got it under control. So they live in less fear.
Yes. Yes.
He's lying. It's not good, obviously, to lie. It's not good. But let's be honest.
I know the point you're making. Yeah, it's the conviction. And the thing is, Trump represents being able to say things that people have been afraid to say. That's what he represents.
Yeah.
And so people buy into that, Obviously, there's a whole argument around racism and stuff like that. But I think one thing that's quite clear from everyone is that he represents a fearlessness and being able to say what he wants, even if it's outrageous.
Mate, yeah. And to be honest, I rate him for that. Mm-hmm. I rate him because to be as... Well, he's not... I can't really call him dumb because any man that made it to that level cannot possibly be that dumb.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So he is the biggest troll, the biggest influencer in the world to get to what position. Troll. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And he's used it very well to get into that sort of power.
Yeah.
And he's always going to have a level of power for the rest of his life. Like there's always going to be that level of power,
Yeah.
And I think with what was happening in the UK, there is that doubt. And I think if they took the approach of being a little bit more number one, kind of a bit more honest, then I think people would have more respect. Oh, one sec. I've got a phone call.
Cool.
People can listen to it on the, you know what? This is an example of what they're like. Well, check this out.
Okay.
Hello? Yep. I'm great, thank you. How are you? Nope, I've got no symptoms. I feel really good. That's fine. No. Nope. Nope, nothing at all. My mental health is very good, actually. Thank you. I will do. Thank you very much. Have a great day. That's a prime example.
Okay.
You hear that?
Wow.
So check this.
Yeah.
I'll get another call in the afternoon from another nurse talking to me about mental health. Lucky yesterday's one, she goes, "Hey Diren, I'm one of the nurses there. I actually follow you on Instagram, so I knew you were here." Yeah. And she was like, "I've been watching your stories and you're giving joy to everyone, but I just want to make sure you're okay. I know it's like on Instagram. I just wanted to make sure." And I was like, "I'm great. Thank you very much." And I was like, and like, I think that's so important. I'm getting
really
2
good.
calls a day, right? Getting tested. So I have full confidence of Australia or New Zealand when I'm out and about. So as like, as someone that's got permanent residency here and as someone that's going to go out into the world here, I've got confidence in what they say. Do you know what I mean?
Now, that's amazing, because now there's another guy that I know, a good family friend I know. He had COVID and he was at the point where they literally thought he weren't going to make it, and he told the family they got to have their last Zoom call, and that's how bad it was. Yeah, he wasn't doing good. I got the phone call along the time when he was in hospital, and obviously they're scared, all the emotion, but we spoke, and then they said, "Look, this is what we've been told." So in my head, I'm like, anyway, thank God he turned it around. He made it. He came home. He had to learn to walk again, a few other ailments in his body. And his confidence was knocked and everything. But the saddest thing is, when I spoke to him on the phone, he said, what the hurtful thing is, Al? He said, they haven't called him once. So he has had no follow-up since that happened to him. My man was almost about to die and they were ready to turn the machines off. And he said, since they've gone home, no follow-up whatsoever. And I think this is the thing. I mean, again, these conversations can go off in any direction, but I do think what's happening here is, interestingly enough, a lot of and I'm going to throw out a loose statement, and I could be wrong with what I'm saying, but just from my loose observation, bearing in mind I'm not following mainstream news deliberately, it often seems to be the powerful countries that are struggling with this. Yeah. And, like your Germany's, your France, your Spain, Switzerland, I know are not that bad, but they're not too good either. Yeah. America's a mess. England's a mess. Yeah. And it's almost like in that process, the Western world moral compass setters are now just at a place of real disorganization.
Do you think that is because those countries have more poverty, more immigrants, more instability? Do you get what I mean? So in Australia, not everyone can walk in. Yeah. It's more balanced in the sense of, like I've said this before, I feel like the whole of Australia is like middle class. I feel like everyone's got money. Do you know what I mean? Sure. So when I flew out and I got some shit from a few trolls saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're traveling in a pandemic. There's so many Australians stuck. And just because you got followers on Instagram, you can fly in." I was like, number one, piss off. I'm a resident. Number two, I know for a fact, everyone here has the resources to be able to afford an expensive flight if they really wanted to get back home. Sure. Like I know 90%, like you can find the money, like here you can find the money in Australia. And if you can't find the money, it's because you're too embarrassed to ask family and friends. Sure. I mean, that's it. That is the only reason, right? So I know that. So not everyone can come in. And I think because of that, they've just gone, and as soon as it happened, because when it kicked off, I was in Bali, right? And then James flew into Australia, not knowing if he might not be able to get back in. So he flew straight away. They closed everything. Bang. Locked it down. The whole country. Now, in England, everyone's going in and out. Yeah. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So, of course, Australia and New Zealand are going to be in this position. Mate, they're in Brisbane, in Australia, one cleaner from a hotel in quarantine got COVID. One. They locked the city down for 3 days. They locked it down. Everyone's staying at home. No one's allowed out. Yeah. Bang. Until it's clean. And then they're back out again.
But then that goes, I think, do you know what? It goes back into, it ties back into this slow response. Again, when you say, it's because of people traveling in and out, I think it's important to be clear what it's meant by that, because some people would easily go on the bandwagon of, yes, see, you got all these immigrants bringing in whatever.
Yeah.
But it's about being clear on what actually is it. Is it about immigrants, or is it about the fact that, as you said, constant moving in and out of the country?
Yeah,
and
I didn't mean it like immigrants.
Yeah, of course.
And stuff. Yeah, because I don't want people to misunderstand. Yeah.
And also, like, the fact that, as I said to you before, they were slow to respond. So when they were starting to identify cases happening, just looking at the response of people, you know what I mean? It was just, there was too much going on. And I don't know if it was taking a long time for the UK to sink in. Actually, we're in trouble here. And like most things where we're just used to watching it on BBC News, actually, this isn't today, it's on our doorstep. And I think it feels like the fact that it's gotten worse than ever is testament to the fact that it's almost like a country like England, which has always prided itself on what it looks like from the outside, as opposed to what the inside in. Because, like, for example, Americans were shocked that they have ghettos in England, because their image of England is everybody sits there with tea.
Hey, that's so true.
Right. Do you know what I'm saying?
Australia thinks like that as well.
Right.
That's so true. The Queen, royal family, like all of that.
It's the image that we buy into. When I speak to a lot of mainland Europeans who, one, have either moved to England and worked in English spaces, or even, like, I had a friend of mine that worked in an upmarket restaurant in his country, in Sweden. And one of the things they all said is that they always find that with English people, they either they don't say what they really mean, so they beat around the bush until they say their point. Yeah. Or, for his observation when he was serving families that were from England, he said straight away you can tell, because it was all about this presentation of, you got to look right. And so now England don't look right. England have got this virus, and in fact they were the first ones to get this mutation, and we've got a third mutation. So it's almost like, now what you're saying, we look chaotic now. Yeah,
I see what you mean. I mean,
and again, it's not to say that I'm not saying that to say I'm reveling in that, because, I live here, I've got family, I've got parents that I want to protect in that space.
Yeah.
But it's almost like, okay, maybe let's drop this front and let's deal with the fact that we've got something that we're not managing very well. Let's look at what's going wrong. And it's not about, let's just blame leadership. Maybe let's look at us as a public people. Yeah. The fact that right now we're divided more than ever. Yeah. You've got people who, I know your friend James kind of spoke out about people, the anti-vaxxers and people like that, and being quite problematic. And I hear it, but I personally think it's not as straightforward as just slating off a good body of people. Yeah. I think there's truth in everything. Yeah. But like everything, it isn't a case of truth is here and lies are here. The truth and the lies is this. And you have to unpack some truth. And sometimes people will use some truth to tell a lie. And sometimes some things are born off of a lie that contains some truth inside it. So there's logic in sometimes the most illogical of narratives. And it's about, one, unpacking what the stories really are, and unpacking why people are saying what they're really saying, is what I'm saying.
And I guess this kind of goes on to like how people's mental health is right now.
Okay. Yeah.
And how people are going to be feeling with all this happening. And what you're saying about the lie, the truth, the vaccine people, the vaccine not. And for example, James's post about that, and I get what he's saying, like you said, and because it is funny when you got people that are like, no, I'm not taking a vaccine, I'm not doing that, but really you sniff cocaine from people's bums, bruv, on the weekends. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, and you're like saying no to a medical thing. But that person could be so anti-vaccine from the distrust that they have with what's happening. So you can't, like, sometimes you get these really crazy comments about the vaccine, but then if they are someone that is not happy with where they are, what they do, and have been struggling with mental health throughout this whole year due to the pandemic, then it's kind of normal for people to get a little bit crazy.
Explain what you mean.
Like, what I mean is, imagine imagine if you and everyone around you,
Mm-hmm.
you don't like what you do, right? You haven't got good family, you haven't got good friends, you've got no one to
Mm-hmm.
talk to.
Yeah, yeah.
All this madness is happening in the world. Of course, you're going to come out with crazy comments. Of course, you're going to get a little bit crazy and go, no, the vaccine's bullshit. Everything, you're going to be defensive and you're going to attack everyone. You're going to be like an angry pit bull because everything around you is not hatred, but you dislike everything about what you do, and everyone around you is lying to you. And there's always, they're trying to, everything they say has an outcome for the opposite side. So you don't know who to trust.
I understand what you're saying. You're trying to say you've got people that are surrounded in a situation where they've probably been dealt a whole bag of bad cards, bad experiences.
Yeah.
And so they don't. Yeah, absolutely. Now, you see, and that is a truth, but that isn't necessarily the whole truth. And so this is where it gets really complicated, because we're living in a situation where there's sometimes you're hearing one or two narratives, but they're fueled by probably about 33 different fueling factors that contribute to just these two simple narratives. Believe it or don't believe it. So, for example, one of the things that they identified here in Britain was they know it in a survey that was done, the percentage of people from the Asian community and people from the Black community who are willing to take the vaccine was much lower than from the white English community. Now, the reason why that was said is because they also identified that people from the Asian and the Black community were at higher risk to a lot of things. Now, especially within the Black community, that was kind of greeted with suspicion and frustration.
Yeah.
For different reasons. One, because Black people have felt that often I've been portrayed very negatively publicly for a long time. So they just like, don't try and put this on us again. Yeah. Another reason is some people have felt, well, Africans have often been used allegedly as a trial place for a lot of vaccines to see if they work before they put out en masse. So people are already feeling a certain way from that. Another thing is some people will say, well, look, tell us the full story. Are you trying to say that just because we are who we are, Black or Asian, we're susceptible to these viruses more than others? Considering that in the past, you would have heard things like people like us are disease carriers. So these things are fueled into feeling like, well, hang on a minute. All of a sudden you want to vaccinate us first because we're priority or we're in that kind of risk of identified as at risk. But when in history have you ever really thought about our welfare and put us first? Because history tells us a very complete different story. Yeah. So for people from that space, you have to unpack that sense of mistrust that goes on there. Yeah. For some people who have decided to go on the health journey, they've gone on the health journey as a way of taking control of their health, which has meant that everything that they've decided to intake is of their own choice. So maybe they've moved away from processed food and made an effort to go down the route of of organic food and stuff. Yeah. So the significance of being told that they've had to take a vaccine is almost like, I've invested all these years into this for someone to just come along and tell me I've got to now take this. Yeah. And my ethos. So do you know what I mean? So when you start to break down some of these things, they're not as outrageous as sometimes it's portrayed to be. Yeah. And actually the line of which they get to that conclusion is quite logical. Even if it might not be right, it's logical.
No, you know what? It makes sense. And I'm so glad you said that, because you are amongst people. Mm. Like, I know I'm amongst people, but you are someone that has discussions with literally everyone and all ages.
Right,
Black, white, Jewish, whatever.
Yeah.
Which is why you're saying what you're saying, which is why a lot of people might have not heard that before, and which is why they might have a better understanding of it now.
Sure.
Because you said things, and although I know I'm very aware of a lot of things that happen, especially like coming from where we're from, but like you just made my mind just go bang. Okay.
Sure.
Well, you can't really fucking blame that person for thinking like that. They're on edge. They've been on edge all their life because they've always been a bit of a target or felt like a target.
Yeah.
So therefore, their response is going to be a little bit more aggressive, maybe, or completely opposite. Like, you know.
Now, also let's look at this now. So, like, for example, and I use your mate James. Big respect to James. James, please don't make a video about me cussing up my name, because I'm
no.
But what I was going to say is, then now you've got people who would align with what James was saying, But actually, the reason why they align with it is not necessarily for the same reasons as him. Because one of the things that you picked up on, which I didn't know about Australia, he says Australians generally, I know he's brought up in England. You told me,
yeah.
But one thing about Australians is that you told me is that they are much better at kind of abiding to rules.
Oh, much better. Much better.
Right.
Much better.
So now take that in context. He said what he said, and the people aligned themselves with that. But then you've got a bunch of people who are also just afraid. They don't know what's going on. They're scared. And so they have a narrative like that would say that they agree with James. But actually, if you look at what's fueling their agreeing with James, it probably not be the same reason that James is saying the thing. You know what I'm saying? So now you've got people who are saying a positive narrative or a proactive, forward-thinking narrative, but it's driven by the fact that they're scared. They want normality. And it's not even new normal. They just want normality. So it's kind of like,
yeah.
just make it go away. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it.
You know what I'm saying? And anyone that says take the vaccine, they're going to go for it because it taps into the fact that that's part of the make it go away syndrome for them.
So like James did a post about that, and so did Paul Lima, right?
Okay.
Very different dynamics. A Nigerian Irish guy, white boy from Windsor living in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Both same sort of angle, like vaccine. Alima's experience was I had COVID and the NHS looked after me. I was in hospital and they, I respect them and I want to support them, sort of thing, right? And what James is saying about the vaccine as well, and I get completely what you're saying. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of people, James could say anything in the world. A lot of people would agree for the sake of agreeing. I could say a lot of things and people would just go, I agree. You know why? Because I trust you.
Yes.
I trust you.
I like you and I trust you.
I like you and I've never seen no snakiness from you. So I don't see why I don't trust you, right?
Yeah.
And
totally.
And also, like, there was a lot of people commenting on those posts going, how much did you get paid and who did you get paid for posting this?
Right. Yeah.
You know, but people forget that even the people that are saying that about the vaccine or whatnot with followers or whatnot, they're people too.
They're humans, exactly.
Like, who knows? I haven't seen James. I haven't had a proper conversation with James in person in nearly a year, which is someone me and him do a lot of when we're together, right? He could have did that because he might have did that to make himself feel better. Maybe he's scared.
Sure. Maybe. I mean, there is that trick. You never know. You
never know. Maybe he wants normality, so he's manifesting.
James Diren said it. I didn't say that. Diren said it. Diren said it.
You know, like, and I'm not saying like exactly, but like, I'm not saying he did it for that reason, but he's a person. Paul Lima's a person. You know, Paul Lima is going to put his trust into the NHS because they looked after him. They saved his life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I think kind of this comes down to whoever you are.
Yeah.
You're kind of going with who you trust. Sort of,
absolutely.
You know,
it's all about trust. And it goes back to what I said before. Because unfortunately, the government hasn't been that transparent historically over the years. The language is different. So all of a sudden now we're coming to an head where we have to make a decision quickly. And unfortunately, for some people, the sense of mistrust is stronger than the need to take a vaccine. And that's just the reality of it. Some people who want to see things go back to normal, and a lot of people who do, will not understand that concept. If you're someone that is naturally a very principled person, so let's just say that you came from the streets where certain attributes is like, yo, if you ain't loyal, don't even come in my presence. You're sticking to principles now. Yeah. And if that principle is, I don't trust you. So I get you're professional, but no, I don't trust you. So me and you can't be talking about vaccine.
Yeah.
It's gonna hinder that. Do you know what I mean? And this is where the complexity of life is. Like, I can't necessarily blame leadership for this, but these are the complexities of what we're dealing with. If it was that straightforward, you look at the whole thing of racism. I remember I was talking the legacy of racism in the UK. I remember I was talking to someone at the end of last year and saying, man, after all the hype of what happened, it's just kind of fizzled back into just, It's there, but it's not quite what it was.
Mm.
And it's just back to the same 5 or 6 people doing hardcore work at the ground roots level. Then this happened in America and it ignited the conversation again. But how it's ignited the conversation is in the sense of what's going on over there with those crazy Americans. So we're not relating it back to the UK. So for people like myself living in the UK, where we need to be having a conversation that relates to UK culture, we're not having it. So what I also understand is when I think about the people around me that I've spoken to, particularly from the white community or just non-Black communities who have wanted to understand more, it's only worked with me because we've taken time to get to know each other. So it's an investment in relationship.
But what you're doing is what a lot of, let's be real, man them in East London don't do what you do.
Sure.
They don't. Come on,
Yeah.
like how many of the Black boys that you know, like give time like you do to white families, kids? Do you know what I mean? Like how many kids, you've helped hundreds of kids in my school that I've seen without discriminating at all, at no level, you know? So of course they're going to listen to you.
Yeah.
Because they trust you. I trust you. I could tell you anything, Alex. And I know that because I trust you. Do you know what I mean? And they respect what you say and listen to what people. This is why I love to have you on the podcast, because the more people listen to you, they'll understand why I think your comments are very valid and everything you say is said you have no sides. You're just saying what you hear.
This is what you see. Yeah, this is what you see.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And you made such a valid point about like people looking over to America and talking about, oh shit, that America's going. And it's such a great excuse not to have the conversation here because everyone's making themselves feel better by going, America's way worse.
That's exactly it. Exactly.
You
it's
know?
doing the avoidance. And the thing is, the only reason, like in my inner circles, and again, thank you for your comments. I mean, the truth is, there's probably lots of other people within the Black community are doing similar work to me. And again, we just haven't got the chance to hear them, and they're in their circles doing their thing, you know. But like,
I didn't mean to say it like that either.
Of course,
there must be people, but I don't want. When people like, there'll be people that listen to this go, hold on a second. Might sound a little bit one-sided here, but it's not. It's because I would never bring someone.
Your reality.
Exactly.
Your
reality. Exactly.
Yeah, this is absolutely. And the thing is, like, what I realized is, as I said, is the relationship building. So in order for us to talk about the whole idea and the legacy of racism in the UK and what that looks like, you have to build relationships with people and create stories with these people, so that when it comes to investing in difficult conversations, they're trusting you in the journey to facilitate the understanding. Now, saying that, I'm saying all of that to say, we've got a very unique situation here, because all of a sudden, with this lockdown and the fact that in this restriction, it's fostered and triggered people and triggered all different emotions in different people based on their natural character. Now we've got to make a decision very quickly because we've got this vaccine coming up very soon. So we now have to unpack all of these historical issues and grievances and ignorances and stupidity and lack of knowledge in this short space of time. It's very difficult to do so because actually we ain't got time. Yeah. But the pressure's on now. Do you see what I'm saying? So, for example, if within the Black community there's a strong sense of mistrust because of things that have happened over hundreds of years, that's fine. But we've got to take the vaccines coming up in a couple of months. What are you saying? Yeah. I don't know the answer to that, but what I guess I am saying is, if anything, for me, I just want to provoke thought into getting people to realize that everything is just not as black and white as it is. And while we're continuing to get frustrated with each other because we don't feel like we're cooperating and doing things in the way that we perceive, we're just fulfilling the problem that we're already in. And this is a very divided place where people don't have a conversation. You just talk at people and expect them to get your way of ideology. And if you don't get it, you're done. Yeah, and that's where we're at the moment.
Yeah, nah, I agree. And it's sad. Like, it's a little bit sad because if people were to take a little bit of time out their day to look up, like look around, the world would be a better place.
Yeah.
The world would be a better place, you know?
Yeah.
And your outlook on things, it would change when you start paying attention to how, like, you could be living a certain life and your next door neighbor could be living a complete different life.
That's right.
You know, and all it takes is for them to look up and see what, say, your reality is, to be able to understand you better, which then affects their thought process before they speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
Before they speak shit, before they talk bullshit. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's been a lot of times where I've said things and I've gone, fuck, you know what? I'm deleting that because I didn't think of this person when I said this.
Sure.
This is my opinion. This is my opinion, but I wouldn't want anyone to feel like I'm not thinking of them, because what I do is I try to get people healthy, all of this stuff, but I try to give a good message. I try to get people to understand I'm here for a good time. And I want everyone to have a good time as well. So what I say and what I do is kind of for that, but that's not me saying, because everyone's like, Diren, oh my God, you're so positive, all this stuff. And it's happening a lot at the minute. And I'm like, I don't want to be that cringy fucking guy that's jumping up and down when someone's dying. I'm not that guy at all. I'm not that guy at all. Like, do you know what I mean? But I just try to I show empathy. But then try to help. But also be my complete self by kind of,
you have to be, you have to be unapologetically you. And, you know, one of the realities of life is everything exists in duality. Every time there's a tragedy going on here, there's something euphoric happening over here, and both are truth. And one shouldn't have to deny itself because of the other. You see what I'm saying? In the same way that if something bad's happening here, it doesn't mean that something good isn't happening there. And they shouldn't have to feel guilty of each other for existing at the same time in the same space. You know what I mean? I think, I guess my biggest take, I don't have answers, you know what I mean? And even though I speak about this with you and I've had this chat with other people, it doesn't make me any closer to the decision of, do I take the vaccine? Because we were talking about that. I do have my suspicions, and I recognize that there's a lot of research that I haven't done. And there was probably at a time a reason I kind of stayed away, because like you, I found it was becoming overwhelming, and then I'm getting anxious. And actually what I just really wanted to be is present. I said, I can be my best version of myself when I'm present. But I guess if there's anything if there's any takeaway from this for people, it's just being understanding of each other and understanding that everybody's manifesting their anxiety and their concern in a different sort of way. And sometimes it's articulated in a way that doesn't resonate with the next person. So we get triggered by the person saying, what do you mean about this conspiracy? Why are you so dumb? But actually behind that, they're actually saying, I'm concerned.
I'm scared.
You know what I mean? And everybody to some degree is scared. But how they express it and how they focus that energy is a bit different. And that's where we all breaks down.
This is why, like, when I had a few people like at me when I left and I did the post as in I'm going to Australia, and the people that were angry, the ones that said, there was a few people that called me a prick and this and that. I responded to them.
On main comments or in the DMs?
Oh no, comments. Oh, you think they're brave enough to DM me that? Whew. You think they're brave enough to DM me that? Because I will say some stuff on the DMs back, boy. They're not ready for that fire. That's what I'm saying. But like, and forget that alone. Imagine in person. There's no way in hell. I would love for someone. I would love for someone to say that. I would love it. I would love it. I would love it.
See, this is Diren's East London element coming back now. You know what I mean?
Say something, bruv. No, say it, because I'll bring that fire back, you know? Because, and this is the thing. If I bring that fire back, maybe that person will think twice before they make a comment like that. Now, although I didn't lose no sleep from it, but some people might. Some people might, and it might upset and affect them. But I just thought, some people are making these comments. The people that called me a prick and stuff, I responded to their comments with being cheeky a little bit, because they were being a little bit personal. But the people that were truly angry, I was like, I get it. And I'm like, here I am sitting on a fucking plane going to sunny Australia, and they're stuck with where they are at the minute. And there's a part of me that was like, I felt a bit shit. Like, fuck, maybe I shouldn't have posted, because I wouldn't want that person to feel that way. Do you know what I mean? That, like, there's a small part I was like, maybe I don't.
Hard, man.
But then when I see people that are doing things, I'm always very excited and I want people to win. I like seeing people win. I like seeing people doing things and it motivates me. It makes me happy for them, you know? And I guess it's just sensitive times for a lot of people, but I do understand why people's responses are the way they're, I get why people are responding in the way they are. That's what I'm trying to say.
But I've heard the thing now. So this is where I think people need to take responsibility for themselves and for their own emotions. And that doesn't take away from the fact that what they're experiencing isn't great. But like, okay, so you're having a good time. You're in a good space. You're enjoying the reaping. You're reaping the benefits of all the years of hard work and what that's allowed you to do.
Yeah.
And you're enjoying that unapologetically. Yet some people ain't complaining about the fact that when you go on BBC One, you still don't understand what the figures are. You're still more confused, and just not only when you're getting the information, you're being told about what Sally's doing in Yorkshire and what Tony's doing in Sunderland and what Betty's doing and just mashing your brain up. But yet you're getting more offended about someone getting on a plane.
Yeah,
people need to really understand.
Yeah.
The thing is like emotional intelligence. Like if you're that upset, you're going to take the time to go and write that sentence. How does it change your day? How does it change your state of mind of how you're feeling?
No,
people need to take responsibility for how they believe in how they manage their emotions. And you know, that's not to say that people ain't having a difficult time, but what have you achieved by messaging someone they follow on Instagram and tell them that you shouldn't be taking a picture on a plane? Okay.
Yeah. But luckily, a lot of people with your mentality were like that. And I didn't even have to say nothing, bruv. They came in and
shut them down, you mean?
Mate, destroyed. That's one thing I love about, and again, this comes down to the people that follow me trust me. They know my intentions. And when they saw someone attacking me, they backed me to the end. You know? And it's a trust thing. It's a trust thing, you know?
It's funny, I had that at Royal Docks, bro, because like there's only about 2 or 3 times where if I had a kid disrespect me, I didn't even have to speak up because the nearest kid, don't talk to say like that. Do you know what I'm saying?
If anyone said something to you, I was there straight. I remember this one time, someone made a comment about you.
Yeah. Okay.
Someone made a comment about you. There was like,
what? Well, in school or
in school when I was younger. When I was younger, they made a comment, like an inappropriate comment, right?
Okay.
Like a childish, inappropriate comment.
Yeah.
I switched.
Wow.
I switched. I was like, what? Bruv, shut the fuck up, bruv. I was like, shut
you see that there?
I said, shut. And that's, but you don't, it's because people get that once they've earned their respect. You've given me so much time.
Yeah.
I'll respect that forever.
Yeah.
And the more people do that,
the
better like communities will become, the better we all grow as community. And the better, like the better we can solve problems. Because when you have a conversation with someone, I might like you and me will disagree on certain topics.
Yeah.
But I will sit back and listen to your opinion with respect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is what people don't do enough.
It's what they don't do exactly. You know what I mean? And that's actually the thing is, we may not agree with each other, but actually there's a potential to learn. And so my thing is, I'm not missing the opportunity to learn something about you. If I disagree with you, why? That's what I want to learn. So there's always an opportunity to learn. Always. You know. And so I guess maybe the biggest takeaway from what we're saying today is I don't know what you think, but for me, it's about in the space that we're all struggling and we're all suffering. This doesn't solve the vaccine issue, but what it does do is look at in this time of isolation, how much are we really investing in communication? Something that a friend of mine said to me this morning when I was on the phone, my morning that is.
Yeah.
She said, one of the things that restrictions and isolation and lockdown has caused for us is that it's reducing the amount of stories that we're creating. So a lot of our strong friendships that we had in the time when we were meeting up together, it's kind of getting weaker because we're tired of doing the Zoom and the WhatsApp vid calls. So we're not talking as much now. The comments are happening less. And what the power in the relationships and the support and the positive energy is in the stories that we create. So how can we create stories together? Me and you, we've done about 3 pieces of work together. And most of our conversations have been around these bits of work. But that means that when we look back at the year, we can say, this has been our story. This is what we've done together.
Yeah. And people need to get creative. You need to adapt. You need to adapt. You can't have a Zoom call with someone, but you can have a Zoom call, and obviously it's not the same. Like us doing this Zoom podcast is not the same as us doing it in a studio. It's not the same.
Yes.
Studio is always better. It's always better, you know. But I'm adapting to my situation. You're adapting to yours. It's that simple,
Totally.
you know.
Totally.
And people need to get creative with, number one, spending time on their own, like getting creative and embrace it a little bit more. And again, this is not me trying to be, oh, it's the fucking positive guy again. You know what I mean? But be able to do that now. So when the time comes and when things are back to normal, because it will be normal eventually. It has to. It has to. Do you know?
It'll be a different normal, I would say.
It will be a different normal. It will be I think it will be a nicer world.
Yeah. Well, do you know what? Yeah. I mean, do you know what my friend said? She was saying, she mentioned the point. She mentioned the Great Depression, the war. She said, at the end of that, there's always been something that was birthed. So she said, after the war, you had like the NHS. Someone else told me that after the war period, I think it was the war period, they said the party culture had really improved because people were going out a bit more and people were enjoying each other. Things, I think, will take a positive turn. It's said that arts is going to be something that's going to really dictate the way we move forward in the world. Right about now, I feel like we're in the height of chaos. And so right now, I don't know what that looks like. Yeah. But I do believe that somehow, in some way, shape and form, positivity has to come out of this.
Have you seen the uncle, tough time never lasts. Only tough people last. Tough people never last. Yeah, but it's true because, and then I had this conversation with Jay Morton. Jay Morton, his SAS for like 10, 15 years.
You talked about him, yes. Yeah.
15 years, I think it is, yeah. We did a podcast and there was a quote, something about like tough men create. Bruv, I'm gonna Google this right now.
Pull it up, man. You can't be dropping half quotes, bruv.
Yeah, I can't be dropping half quotes, man. I can't be dropping.
Mash up the man's quote.
Yeah. Wait, hold on. What is it?
What's the guy's name?
Okay, here we go. It's Jay Moore. It's not his quote, but it's basically the quote is: hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times.
Wow, look at that, the cycle. So basically, speaking of the cycle.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, in my head, at this sort of hard times, although it's not war and all that stuff, but I guess it's war with something else, with a virus, right?
It's a depression time. It's mass trauma right now.
Exactly. So fucking Siri. So for that, so all that's saying to me is this tough time is gonna, I think, create a better life when things are back to normal, because people are gonna go back and really appreciate the smallest things like human contact. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit worried of my response when I get out in Sydney.
Yeah.
I said to James, I haven't walked to a bar and ordered a drink in a year. Like,
that's so mad.
I haven't stood up. I've gone somewhere and I had to be seated. You know, I'm worried. Like in England, we know when you meet someone or when you see someone in the street you haven't seen. Yeah. You know, now you pause, like, do I shake their hand or do I not?
In it, yeah.
Someone's gonna reach out and be like, "Yo, Diren," I'm gonna be like, "Bruh."
I'll come there, every kind of thing.
Back up. I'm like, bruv, move your ass. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I was thinking about that earlier.
Yes.
Hold on a second. Like, is this?
And the thing is, it might not even be your conscience. I think because I've noticed that now I'm hesitant because some people don't mind the handshake. Some people are not on that at all. Some people are kind of drawing for the elbow before you even, like, you've got the hand and they're just giving you the, you're like having to.
You're like, raw.
So this is going to be interesting. You need to talk about this in your story.
I am going to 100% do a podcast on this. I'm going to do a post on this as well, because I really want to see I know I'm intelligent enough to be able to, like, emotionally intelligent enough to be able to, like, adapt to it very quickly. but I'm just going to observe what my subconscious brain is going to respond like.
Yeah, because
You know
the
what I
thing
mean?
is, this is because it's going to impact England, and in the sense that with England, we've been doing this for so long now that even when it comes to a place where they've eased up restrictions, because again, I've been telling people, even with these vaccines, let's just say by April, they've given everybody the vaccine, which I know that won't be the case.
Yeah.
It's still going to take months to, first of all, test to see if it's safe to fully relax.
Yeah.
But then people, because by that point it would be a year and a half,
Yeah.
or almost a year and a half, no, not quite a year and a half, but almost, that people are now going to be allowed to touch. And that might take a long time. It might change the way we greet people from now on, actually.
Yeah. Like the modern greet, like distance, Bluetooth thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the thing is, Bob, there was a point, like, you know how people do the one hand and then gave each other a hug?
Yeah.
That was a sudden thing, because that came up. I'm trying to think I noticed that happening from about the late 90s, was that starting to filter through to more people. But before that people weren't doing that.
That's definitely come from Black culture.
Yes.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. And I'll say Black American culture.
Yeah, because it's cool.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It was cool.
Yeah, the Black culture is like, it's where cool comes from. I mean, it's true.
It's true.
It's true. You took hip hop.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan. Clothing.
Slang.
Yes, slang. Look at Kanye West. He's a fucking madman, but the shit he creates. Man releases Yeezys. I've got them in my suitcase.
Oh, you got Yeezys up.
Okay. Yeah. I want one because it's cool. It's cool. Yeah. You know?
No, but you're right. I mean, because I remember I went clubbing, and it was 1997. And I hadn't seen, so it was back in Ilford where my old secondary school was. And I hadn't seen, back then, not seeing your friends for 2 years was like a long period of time.
Yeah.
And I saw them in the club, and they gave me a hug. And like, so we're like 17, 18. And he saw me, him and his brother, but he came and just gave me a full on hug. And I remember, so he hugged me, and I'm like, this is strange. Well, what are you doing? Because in the school, we weren't doing that sort of thing. The most we got was a spud. And so I remember I was like, this is strange. And then he let go. I was like, yeah. And I was like, okay. It was just not the thing. And then I think it was only after that, then we started to do this whole one hand situation.
Yeah.
This might change the way we greet each other, man.
Mate, it's going to be evolution, fam. Adapting, innit? Like, it's just evolving. It's weird. It's good. It's kind of exciting as well, because I'm excited to see what's going to happen, to be honest.
Well, yeah, I'm excited. And the thing is, like, people ask me how am I feeling, and I say from a personal perspective, I'm optimistic. I feel good about the opportunities. I've seen myself evolve. But at the same time, while I do experience that, I'm also feeling the collective exhaustion of all these narratives passing through. Sometimes, if narratives from your friends, narratives from the news, managing it all at the same time is quite an exhausting thing.
Yeah.
Knowing that, there's a what if to every situation.
Yeah.
And then it comes to a point where you just realize, okay, I just need to let go.
Yeah.
And I need to be vulnerable, and I need to sit with this vulnerability that I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And recognize that often society doesn't have a very positive relationship with vulnerability, even though vulnerability is where growth happens. So I need to kind of just chill. And it's taken me a long time to get my head around it, but yeah.
But I think we should end it on that topic, man. It's been,
yes, sir.
It's been an hour. It's been over an hour already, man. I could talk with you non-stop. This is the problem.
That's the thing. Normally, though, we have a selection of food. You're normally spoiling man with a whole selection of food in your dad's place.
Yeah.
At the moment, I've just got this little bottle of water. Like, that's all I've got to kind of make you feel like that. You know what I mean? But yeah, wicked, bruv. It's always a pleasure with you, and thank you for having me on. I really
anytime, guys. If you want to go find Alex on Instagram, it's on. So is it mechanical? YouTube?
It's Alex_mechanical, which is spelled MECHANIKOOL.
You're so old school, bro. I love it.
Why is that? What's so old school about that?
like the way you're like, and this is how you spell it. I'm like, Alex, I love you, bro. You're too funny. You crack me
what
up.
is you gonna put it up in a text or something like that?
I might have to. I might have
Wait,
to.
do it in beat.
I'll do it with your fingers as well. Like, on beat. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you for listening. Make sure you subscribe, share with your friends. Peace and love. Take it easy.
One love. Peace.